All right, welcome everybody to another edition of the Dad at Arms channel. I'm your host, Colt, the Dad at Arms, and joining me today is my friend Adam from Battle Ram Blog. How you doing, Adam?
Hey, Colt. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So real quickly, I wanted to give you a chance to for those who don't know you, I wanted you to kind of introduce yourself, tell people what it is you do with the Battle Ram Blog, and kind of what you're all about. So,
Yeah. So I started Battle Ram Blog about 10 years ago. So it was originally just kind of a way for me to, because I was doing a lot of research, just basically trying to kind of keep track of historical information about Masters of the Universe wherever I could glean it from. So it could be from forum posts. It could be from interviews that people had done in the past, or like Power and the Honor Foundation. But I was kind of trying to just keep track of things. So I I figured out the most efficient way to do that was just to do a little blog, right? And
hmm
that way you could, as I found more information, I could keep adding to it, even if nobody ever read it. That's fine as long as I kind of gather information, because I just when I got into Masters, which was originally like 2012, 2013. I kind of dived in with both feet, but what I found most fascinating was just the history of it. And
hmm
I never, obviously as a kid, when you're a kid, you don't know. All you know is what's in front of you, and
right.
you kind of wonder, oh, why, you got these mini comics, and well, why do these characters look different than the toy? Or you don't have those answers when you're a kid, but you can find those in the collector community.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it kind of took on a life of its own. So it's become a large, it's a blog, so it's not like a site where people, there's not a forum or things like that, but there's a lot of articles. There's like 250 plus articles on all the vintage figures and different aspects of the history. There's a lot of interviews with the original creators. So that I've been doing that forever, and kind of peripheral to that, I do a lot of posting on Facebook. Occasionally, I'll do like a YouTube video where I kind of do a brief history of some subject. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Awesome. And I just wanted, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it, but you were one of the inspirations for me to start doing, this channel. I really liked how you had this archival information, like you mentioned earlier, you have all these interviews with past, writers and creators and artists and things like that. And it was such a good resource for me as a fan, to go through your stuff and to see all of these things and to learn things, learn things that I didn't know. Like you said, as kids, we just had what was in front of us. We didn't have the resources that we do now. And so it was a really helpful thing to do. And so when I started my channel, I kind of had this idea that I wanted to focus on doing interviews with creators. And I've kind of focused more on the current wave of creators while, talking to occasionally talking to people who've been in the fan community for decades. Um, so yeah, I guess that's a long
Yeah.
way of me saying thank you for
Oh
for what
well.
you do and for being an inspiration.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm always impressed whenever I see you've got a new video out. Like, how did he manage to get that person on his channel to talk? It's amazing. Like all the connections that you've made since you started. So congratulations
Thank
on
you,
that.
thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and I know preaching to the choir with you, but this is just such a rich and rewarding hobby to have, and I've enjoyed it. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Um, and then we were kind of talking beforehand. You just reached a kind of a milestone for you where you surpassed 10,000 followers, and you said you're now at almost 13,000 followers over and that's on
on
Facebook, right?
that's on Facebook. Yeah. That's the biggest social media following that I've got is on Facebook, and that's where I post the most too. It's kind of, for a while I was like a little bit like, why are all the, a little bit, I don't know, crestfallen, like, some web, you see websites like, master sites, it's starting to shut down over time, and
Yeah.
everybody's on social media, which is a loss in a certain way. But I've never kind of done a lot on Facebook, so I've been trying to do a little bit more just to kind of, see what the response would be. And I kind of get it, just because it's a huge audience over there. Like,
Hmm.
if you look at the metrics, like how many people saw this, it's kind of crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, and in addition to that, just recently within the past couple of months, you partnered with For Eternia, the website, um, to kind of combine forces. That website focuses more on news and that kind of information, whereas you kind of focus on this archival information. So that's
Right.
cool too.
Yeah, that's fun, and that's kind of, seem like a good sort of partnership. And it's fairly casual. I've got my site, he's got his, but like if I've got a new article, I'll post it over there. I've got links to his site on my site, and then we do a podcast together, which originally we're going to do like once a quarter, but I think we'll do it a little bit more frequently than that.
Cool.
So that should be good.
Very cool. And then in addition, I noticed as well you have Yuka Isakainen's new
Yes.
website, the new Eternia artwork and biographies, which fantastic. I love that.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was showing me some samples pages when he was making it. I kind of did some very, very, very minor editorial stuff for him with like grammar and stuff like that, and just kind of basically another set of eyes on it for him. But man, that's a cool site. I love that he did
Yeah,
that.
it is cool. I'm glad he did that too, because I certainly don't have the time or energy for it. So I'm
Hmm.
glad he's doing it. Somebody had to do it. And for those, I should also mention, for those who don't know, so I started Battle Ram blog, but Yuka, like from the beginning, he would like reach out to me like, hey, have you considered this? Or, oh, hey, here's some information you may not have known, or here's some images that would work well for this article that you just did. So he kind of slowly became, a part of Battle Ram blog too. So he'll occasionally do like his own article, or we'll pair up and do an article. So he's, from almost from the beginning, he's kind of just been like reaching out to me like, hey, this, I don't know if this is right, doing a little bit of fact checking. So he's helped keep, especially in the beginning when I was pretty new at it and I was still learning a lot myself. It was very, it was kind of critical to have somebody like Yuka, had a lot more time in the fan community, and he kind of knew things that I you know, didn't know didn't know that I didn't know. So
Yeah,
he's been very
yeah,
helpful.
that's awesome. And I think that's one thing, at least for me, with like the fan communities and stuff like that. Like I remember back in the early 2000s, like ooh, 2000, right around when the Mike Young Productions cartoon was kind of kicking off. I was on the He-Man.org uh, forums and stuff, and it started out as just like, oh yeah, I remember this cartoon from when I was a kid, and there's a whole community out there for it. But I was always like, I don't know, like socially shy about communicating and being a part of those forums, so I would lurk and just read what other people were talking about. And
Right.
it,
Yeah.
it, it wasn't until actually, fairly recently that I got more active in the fan community and so I don't know if that experience is similar to you, but that's kind of how I started it. I was always really, I don't know why, but I was always nervous about putting myself out there.
Yeah, I think I was a little nervous at first, especially since everybody seemed to know so
Yeah.
much. Like, so I think especially on He-Man.org, there was like this culture of people knew stuff, and they were all about like, oh, did you know this? Did you know that? There was like this culture of, you know, kind of talking about history. I think more than you
Hmm.
see like on, in Facebook groups or, Twitter or whatever, Instagram. Is kind of that more of that, and I think probably because there was just less going on currently, right?
Right,
There
right.
wasn't like a bunch of cartoons and 3 toy lines and spin-offs and all this stuff. It was so that you kind of had to focus more inward on the past, kind of figure out like all of this stuff. So at first I was a little reticent. I did end up being a pretty frequent poster, but then after the kind of the end of classics, then I was so busy with my blog, and
Hmm.
like I kind of got away from doing too much communicating with people other than a small circle of friends. And I've kind of like forced myself to be a little bit get back into it, just wherever
Yeah,
I can find other
yeah.
people to talk to.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I think that's as good of an introduction as any for you. And I'll include links to all of your stuff in the show notes so that people can find you and support you. Um, but why don't we go ahead and jump into what I want to talk about today? I thought it would be fun if we get kind of reminisced a little bit and had a conversation about the Golden Books era of Masters of the
Yeah,
Universe. Um, so this is special to me because this is kind of my first solid memory of Masters of the Universe. I would go there. There was a local craft store in in town that my mom would go to like once a week to get like crafting supplies and stuff. And as a kid, she would take me with her, and they had a small kids section where they had some toys for kids to play with, but they also had books, like children's books to buy. And that was the first time I saw these Golden Book storybooks, and I just fell in love with them because the artwork was, especially the cover art, was just
yeah,
fantastic on those early books, and it just kind of sparked this lifelong obsession with the brand. And then it was a nice surprise to learn that, oh, there's toys of these too, and there's a cartoon, and
mm,
it was just, yeah. So this is like pure nostalgia for me to dive into this
yeah.
stuff, and I'm gonna play a little clip.
Here stands Castle Grayskull on the rocky, battle-torn planet of Eternia. Locked within its cold walls lie all the ancient wisdom and mystical secrets of ages past.
I am He-Man, sworn to protect Castle Grayskull from the forces of evil by the force of my magical sword of power.
I, Skeletor, shall gain control of Castle Grayskull's secrets and become king of Eternia!
And now, He-Man faces his deadliest enemy, Skeletor, in the battle for Castle Grayskull.
Yeah. I love those. That's so great. And the video adaptations of them, they're the music, the voice acting. It's just I never saw those as a kid, but I saw them like early on when I re-engaged. I remember I watched them on the bus, like going to and from work. I would just watch the videos.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, that was I had the VHS tape as a kid. It had like a yellow cardboard sleeve cover. Um, and I think I wore that tape out because I watched it so often. And then I'd be sitting there on the living room floor with all my toys scattered around me as I watched it, and so yeah, anytime I hear that narration pop up and that music, and I mean it's as effective to me as the Filmation series and everything.
Yeah,
And I I'm gonna go to bat for it. I think it does a really good job
yeah, yeah. I
adapting
think you're
those
the first.
early stories.
I think you're the first person I've talked to who came into Masters through Golden Books first. Usually, people, it's like, oh, I got the toy for Christmas, or I saw the cartoon. something along those lines, and that's what pulled him in. But the Colt, that's a nice way to get into it. That's a really
Yeah.
solid series.
And I think I'm a little. I was born in '82, and so I was, I was a newborn when the toy line launched and stuff. And so yeah, my first memories when I started gaining memories were these stories, and then everything that was available after that point. It's all just kind of there together. So I love it.
Yeah, that's great.
So let's kind of get into the particulars of this. With that, if I remember correctly, there were actually two videotapes. There was the Battle for Castle Grayskull, which combined. Well, let's see. There's the Battle of Castle Grayskull and the Eye of Eternia that were on that first cassette tape, and it adapted the first 4 storybooks in the Golden Books lines. Does that sound right?
I think so. Yeah, I watched it recently, and I was trying to figure out. I know it was at least a couple of stories. Like I know there was. Let's see, what was it? It was Caverns of Fear, I think, which I've got here.
Yeah.
I think there was maybe it had like Thief of Castle Grayskull somewhere in it as well. I don't think it had the Trap. It might have had also though the sort of Skeletor in there somewhere.
So when I was looking, so the Battle for Castle Grayskull segment is those two you talked about, the Caverns of Fear and the Thief of Castle Grayskull.
Yeah.
And the Eye of Eternia is the Sword of Skeletor and Time Trouble.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then
which was another great one.
Yeah. And again, like I was saying earlier, the art on these first books is just incredible. And if you'll know this better than I, but I'm pretty sure this is Earl Norham work. Is that correct?
Which depends on which one, which book.
So let's start at the beginning. So Caverns of Fear.
So that's actually Gino Diacchio. I may be mispronouncing the name. I think he's an Italian artist. He did the first 4.
Okay.
So Sword of Skeletor, Thief of Castle Grayskull, and he was a fantasy artist. He did a lot of like fantasy covers for I think novels. But a lot of the other ones were Earl Norham, like Time Trouble was Earl Norham. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got like the Mask of Evil was always one of my favorite ones, and this is where this is the one I remember the most for. We were talking about Tila's Golden Books design with like the separate snake helmet.
Yeah, that's
that's the book that I remember the most because of that. And now it looks like we're getting an action figure based on that with which I'm excited for.
I'm excited for that too. It's funny, we were chatting about that, and then like a day or two later that pops up.
Yeah, it was awesome. Fortuitous how that happens.
Yeah.
So so those first 4 books were published from 1983 to 1984, and this is where one of the things that I hope maybe you can kind of clear up for me is these books. It was 1983. That was the same year that the Filmation cartoon began.
Yes. But
the vibe between both of these different media formats are very different. Like the Filmation cartoon is, it has Prince Adam in it, and it has the, that classic storyline. These kind of seem more in line with the early mini comics, where it's kind of
they do. Yeah, it almost seems like from the artwork and from what they're drawing on, it almost looks like they're. If you've ever seen the 1982 licenser kit, that just sort of it's like full of Errol McCarthy art, and it's sort of just a very basic explanation of each character and here's what they do, and it almost looks like it's based off of that kind of material, and it sort of skips. Like they weren't. There was a line from like DC Comics, like the full size, like the Superman, and then there's 5 total full size comics, and those kind of influenced Filmation.
Yeah.
But they were totally separate from the Alfredo Alcala Don Luke comics, And then you've
Mhm.
got Golden, which is kind of its own thing, which is much more stripped down. It's like it doesn't have. It's not alkali either. It's not like Don Bluth stories. It's just like it really seems like the basic, like if you just knew who the characters were and what their faction was, and you had like the cross cell art, and that's almost all there is in there. And then it's just like they fight over Castle Grayskull and the
Yeah,
sort of the
yeah,
power sword.
yeah. And that was another thing that really stood out to me. It was in the I believe it's the Sword of Skeletor book where we get the
Hmm.
twin halves of the power sword, and that's my first
Yeah,
memory of that. But there's that great moment where Merman steals He-Man's sword and presents it to Skeletor, and I love when he just smashes them together
yeah,
in
yeah,
that art.
yep,
And then
yep.
yeah, it's got the whole thing where he uses it as the key to open up Castle Grayskull. And the art inside is really good in this book. The Fred Carrillo, is that how that's pronounced? Or Creo?
Hmm. Fred Carrillo.
Yeah, I think he's
I
kind of the
guess,
standout
yeah,
artist for these books.
he's my favorite for sure for the illustrations. And I guess there is a little bit of mini comic stuff, or maybe even if it's just from like the throne room scene on Sword of Skeletor, that kind of reminds me of like maybe King of Castle Grayskull a little bit. And just the fact that Skeletor puts his sword to the side of the castle, like that he unlocks it like the key
Yeah,
hole in the side. That's also in the early mini comics. It's just that the stories are they
they're very
they
basic.
seem, yeah, they're very basic. And it's got the wizard Zodak. That's one of my favorite things. Like Zodak is a wizard who helps He-Man out to get into the castle.
Yeah, it's awesome. Oh, it's so much fun. And then it's got like it even has the appearance of the your blog's namesake. It's got the battle ram vehicle there on the
It
last
does.
page, which
Yeah,
is cool.
yeah. You got that
So
in there. Like Thief of Castle Grayskull, I think that's got a lot more battle ram too. So
yeah, yeah. And then there's another I think it's later when we get to some of these later books. There's another artist that's kind of my second favorite to the the Krillo
hmm.
artwork, but we'll get to that. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, we've got those first four, and those were the ones that were included that were adapted onto that VHS. And then this is where it kind of gets murky for my knowledge. There was another videotape that I think adapted three more stories,
Yeah.
but I've never been able to find a good summary of what those are. I'm assuming it's like the Rock Warriors or the Dragon's Egg books.
Yeah. I think the Rock Warriors is one. I think there's one that does Maze of Doom, which is one of the hardcovers.
Yeah,
And that's where like Skeletor creates all these plants that pop up in the Eternia and vines and things, and Evelyn disguises herself as the sorceress.
that's
So there's a
right.
little bit of that, and I think there's also I don't or was this on one of the early Demons of the Deep? Was that
That
in one of the
yeah,
ones we talked about already?
no, that wasn't in the one we talked about already.
So that I
And
think that
this one's
yeah.
yeah, this one is again illustrated by Fred Carrillo, and this is one we talked about online not too long ago. I did a post on it using some scans that you had collected. But this is the one that's written by R.L. Stein of
Yeah,
Goosebumps fame,
yeah,
which was
yeah,
surprising. I didn't realize
yeah,
that until just recently, which is cool.
yeah. That it feels like the first one, the first like they're all really good except for there's like a series of like 1985 hardcovers that are much lower, noticeably lower in quality.
And
Which
even
I don't
like
actually. Yeah,
yeah, even the you got like the
yeah. That's
Skeletor's,
exactly.
and even like the cover art is very, it's not good.
No, it's not.
It's very goofy.
I kind of cringe whenever I see those ones.
Yeah. So I have four of those, and you've got like Tila's Secret, which kind of adapts the
Hmm.
Filmation, Tila episode where she learns about her mother as a sorceress, but it's completely different. Like the only connective tissue is that yeah, Tila's mother is the sorceress, but beyond that, it's vastly different.
Right. Yeah, and you do get, I mean, as you go along too, it does start to adapt. Like those early ones, they're very kind of primordial. They do start to adapt filmation things.
Hmm.
Like you'll start to see the actual, like in Time Trouble that has the
Yeah.
filmation sorceress. Orko starts to pop in on a lot of these as well.
And I believe it's Time Trouble where we first actually see Prince Adam in these storybooks. Does that sound right to you? Yeah,
I
it's
think
the one
so.
that starts out with him hanging out in a hammock and Tila dumps him out of it.
Right, yeah.
But just lots of fun.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And but it's funny because it's the Tila that we talked about with the helmet, the snake helmet, and
Yeah, yeah,
the armor. It's not like the Filmation Tila at all.
yeah. Even like she acts like the Filmation Tila, but they
She
look nothing
does, yeah,
alike.
yeah,
And so yeah, and so that's why, for me there's a little bit of that murkiness there where it's like, well, these are running concurrently with the show, but it almost looks like someone didn't get the memo on either side on to make them cohesive.
yeah. I mean, it's funny because so Golden was published by Western Publishing. Mattel bought Western Publishing in 1979, so they owned it. Um, and Western Publishing did the first 4 mini comics, so there's a connection there. They did the pop-up game, Masters of the Universe pop-up game. So, and then they did when they did the first Golden books, Mattel still owned them as well. So it's kind of it's kind of funny. Like I don't think there was a lot of efforts to just sort of make a cohesive story that was all kind of the same feel wherever. That I think it was more of just marketing thought of it as this is a way to sell more toys. So
Right.
whatever give them the basics over at over at Golden Western Publishing. And here's like a sheet of all the characters. Go wild.
Let's get as much materials out as we can.
Right. But then they did sell Western Publishing in like at the end of '83. So the ones afterwards, it was not their company anymore, but they still kept doing the series for Mattel.
Okay. Cool. And so in the kind of the smaller hardcover books,
Yes.
this is one that I was kind of alluding to earlier, the Dangerous Games book. I think this is illustrated by Charlie Pietrafesso. I know I'm murdering that name, but I really like. It's not as good as the Krillo artwork, but I really like it. There's some, I don't know. There's some really fun
Yeah, that's
things going on in
interesting.
there.
It's not. It's a little different style. There was another guy. There was what was it? Adrian Gonzalez. He was another artist who worked on these. He kind of had a similar style to Fred Carrillo. But you're right. This guy has his own style, Charlie.
Yeah. And I think one of the fun things about this is about midway through the book when it starts off with there's a royal contest of games of skill where all the warriors of eternity are competing against each other. And I like it because Adam and Tila are actually leading the pack in terms of who's winning. And then of course Skeletor attacks and things go crazy and He-Man has to transform. And then as soon as He-Man shows up, I like it. And this is why I wore this shirt today of the Alcala artwork. But you've basically got He-Man and Tila just riding Battle Cat together as they're fighting their way through these hordes of enemies. And I don't know, it's really fun.
Yeah. It's really cool. I have to take a look at that. I haven't read that one for a while.
Yeah. So then we go from those books, and those are they carry the heroic champions kind of subtitle grouping for that, and then we go into the derpy ones with the bigger hardbound books where it just kind of falls apart at that point. So and that's kind of as far as the Golden Book series go. That's kind of where it kind of wraps up, is with these later lower quality hardbound books. There are a few notable exceptions in the Super Adventure softcover books. There's the Secret of the Dragon's Egg.
Yep.
And this is where we see the first appearance of Goatman, who is apparently going to be in the new movie, which is interesting.
Yeah. It's funny
And
how he's
just
sort of gained a life of his own. Just a sort
yeah,
of a random extra included in that
yeah.
book.
And I was reading through your interview with the writer of this book, and he said, or I guess it was Yuka's interview with him. That's on your,
Yuka
yeah,
interviewed.
that's right.
Yep.
And he says that this character was just an unnamed minion when he wrote out the story, and then the editors gave him the name Goatman in edit,
Yeah.
in edits. So
Yeah.
now he's gonna have his movie appearance. So that's fun.
Yeah, and there's and in some of those early ones too, there were sort of these kind of crazy looking minions too. I think like in sort of Skeletor and Thief of Castle Grayskull. I think there were some kind of gnarly, funky looking minions as well.
There, especially on the cover art, there's this really strange. I don't know if you can see him there. He's there holding his face.
It almost looks like Gollum from some of the old book illustrations.
And he always kind of scared me. I remember as a kid because I thought he had just got bashed in the face by Man-at-Arms Mace.
Right.
But it just I don't know why it just kind of scared me.
he does look like he's in some pain. So actually it's funny, there's this page. This is Thief of Castle Grayskull. You can see Beastman there with some minions. One of them's got goat horns too.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of little background guys in some of these. Some of them got like fish fins and things like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, and so we have the first 4 books, then we have the Super Adventure titled ones from 1984 to 1986, then the Heroic Champions that were all published in 85, and then the low quality ones, I don't know what else to call them. They were also published all in 1985.
Right, the hardcovers. Yeah, there was a mix, because 85 we had the low quality ones, but you had also Rock Warriors, Magic Mirrors, Dragon's Egg, Meteor Monsters. Those were all 85. And then some of the better hardcover ones like Maze of Doom, that was 85 as well. But I noticed too, like if you look at the mini comics, like all the Evil Horde mini comics, or most of them from 85, they're also very strange artwork, like kind of low quality. So I don't know if it was just Mattel was like, okay, we got to cut some budget here. Let's hire some less expensive artists for some of these stories. I don't know.
So before we move on to the next topic, I want to play one more quick clip from that VHS tape. This is the first time we see Prince Adam transform into He-Man in these books, and it didn't show up until Time Trouble. So the 4th book in the series is when we finally see the actual transformation. So let me play that real quick for us.
Prince Adam draws his hidden sword and speaks the magical words.
By the power of Grayskull,
So it's not, as iconic as the Filmation.
Yeah,
but
it's
not bad.
It's not bad. It's based on Filmation for sure. That was their innovation was that specific phrase. Because in the DC books he does transform, but he has to go to the Cave of Power.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he can only do it there, and I don't think he says that line either. The other thing, I don't know if you've got this on your list. Do you have Sunbird Legacy on your list?
I don't. I was actually going to get to that. That's one of the. It's one of those bigger hardbound books, and I don't actually have that one in my collection, but that one is actually a really good one, as far as the artwork is concerned, especially that. I mean, that cover art is pretty iconic.
Yeah, that's one of the most iconic Norm pieces. It's illustrated by Fred Carrillo and Adrian Gonzalez. It's also 83, so it's like October 83, so it's just a little after those first 4. But it does have, unlike the first 4, this one they must have just gotten different notes or source material, because it does have Prince Adam, does have the sorceress, it still has Tila with the the usual snake armor
Mhm.
helmet thing, but it's a very unlike the others too. It's a comic book series. It's got panels and word bubbles. It's not like a storybook, but it's a much more involved story. It's a very complex story. Um, I read it recently. I was thinking this would make a really good movie. This should be adapted to a movie. It's a
Yeah.
really good story,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, that one's definitely a standout. Um, and then from there, I wanted to talk about, because in the mix of all of these He-Man books we're talking about, there's also She-Ra books that
Yes.
Golden Books is publishing, and those are I don't have any memory of those, and so I was kind of hoping that maybe you could fill us in a little bit on those stories. I know this was the era of She-Ra where it was definitely, you could tell it's definitely geared towards young girls, with the focus on She-Ra impressing her date and going to a dance and having beauty contests and stuff like that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. A lot of it is like that. The standout, though, the one that's kind of a little different, is sort of Shira, and that's the only one with Noramar, and it's got the Shira
yeah,
on Swiftwind flying through the air, which is really iconic.
just such a good, yeah,
Yeah. But that one does have, it's got Prince Adam, it's got the Sorcerers, it's got Castle Grayskull. It's almost like Secret of the Sword, where it starts on Eternia, and then we get introduced to Etheria, and Prince Adam goes to Etheria, and you see Adora with Hordak. So I think it's kind of drawing from Secret of the Sword.
hmm
Whereas the other ones are more kind of similar to the She-Ra mini comics, which were kind of totally their own thing. It was more, yeah, like you said, like Catra's jealous of She-Ra, and there's kind of this. It's less kind of traditional fantasy adventure. It's kind of its own thing.
yeah. Just trying to bring up that artwork for us there. There we go. But yeah, that's that
Yeah,
Norm art, which is just fantastic. And I think that's kind of, even though I don't have, you know, a nostalgia or a history with these particular books, that art always stands out to me as one of the best, you know,
yeah,
renderings of She-Ra. It's pretty great.
yeah. It's really good. Some of the other ones, I know of four. I don't know if there's more. I've got four basically that I got from He-Man.org when it still existed. So I know there's Glimmer of Hope, there's the Crooked Crown, and the Enchantment, and those are the other four. And they've got different cover artists. They, I mean, a lot of the designs are still Filmation, um, but it's like you don't see like Leech and Antenna in most of these. You just see like you see like Double Trouble and Catra
Hmm
and those characters. It's like they've segregated, like the Toyas were segregated with villains. They kind of
Yeah.
do that with some of these books too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really as much as I've got concerning, I guess, the history of these storybooks. We did get some newer ones that were kind of a throwback. We had one for He-Man. I don't have the year in front of me on that one. There was one for He-Man and there was one for She-Ra, and they're very recent. I think they're just simply titled "I Am He-Man" and "I Am She-Ra."
Right. I've got those somewhere. I'm not sure where they're at, but I know I own
Yeah,
them. I
those are pretty cute. Just
Yeah,
having that obvious nostalgia throwback. So it was fun to see those pop up. I wish they'd do more of that kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah. I would, especially if it was kind of if they really made it a throwback and kind of got somebody who could do kind of that the same style of artwork as the originals,
Yeah,
and kind of
yeah.
crank those out. I'd make it a subscription. I'll subscribe to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Have it as like a bonus perk or something.
right.
So, so yeah, that's really all I've got for us, to talk about, other than kind of the memories have. I kind of shared my memories at the top of when we started talking about these. Is there anything you want to add to any of that?
Um, so the one we didn't talk about, like I remember there's a few that I remember. One is definitely uh, what is it? Like the Sword of Skeletor. I remember Mask of Evil, especially the cover of that. The other one was The Trap, which is one of those first four, but it's like the two things that stuck out mostly as a kid is just the intensity of this scene where
Yeah.
He-Man is violently shoving this door into Skeletor.
And I love Skeletor's oddly colored face. Like
Yeah,
it's like white bone, as compared to his usual green and yellow. And then the
yeah,
sword has that very realistic look to it as well,
right,
where it doesn't look like the standard gray or purple.
right, exactly. It's much, it looks like actors playing these roles. And then
Yeah.
the other thing, for whatever reason, when I was a kid, like just this thing that freaked me out was this. And looking at it now, it's kind of silly looking. Is this cartoony like it's basically this phantasm dragon thing that Skeletor conjures,
Yeah.
but it just freaked me out when I was a kid for whatever reason.
It's funny what stands out to us as kids as frightening. I have
Right? Yeah.
my oldest son, he's now 15, but he was telling me the other day, in our old house we had a basement, and that's where I kind of kept all my stuff, including like all my video game stuff and my video game memorabilia. And he says he always remembers going down there to play like a Mario game, and I had it's a NECA Jason from Friday the 13th figure, but it's the NES version where he's like purple and everything.
Yeah.
And you open the flap on that box, and it plays the music from the Nintendo Friday the 13th game. And that always freaked my son out whenever he would go down there, and the motion of him walking past
Right.
it would trigger it. And he says, yeah, it scared me so bad, and I never wanted to be down there with that thing. And it just made me think
That's
of
funny.
things that scared me like that as a kid that are just so kind of
Yeah.
silly.
Yeah, that's really funny.
But so yeah, well, I think that about kind of covers everything I wanted to talk about. It's all
Yeah.
it's always, and that's what I love about this brand, Masters of the Universe, is it's fun to kind of take these trips down memory lane and tap into what made us fall in love with it. And obviously, like I said, this is my touch point of where I fell in love with the brand. So, thanks for humoring me on talking about this stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I love the Golden Books. That's one of my favorite things. Probably like I don't know, as a whole. Like if I look at like everything as a whole, I love the mini comics, but like I kind of even love the Golden Books more. They just I don't know. There's something special about them. I
Yeah.
want to show off this too. I've got like this
Yes.
little record version of Thief of Castle Grayskull that my sister
Oh,
got
very
for me,
cool.
which is not opened. It's sealed, so I haven't opened it. And I don't have a record player, but
That's
it's pretty
awesome.
great. Just out of that. So
That's very cool. It also kind of reminds me. I have it. I can't get it off the wall, but it's up there in a frame. But it's the kid stuff vinyl records.
yeah,
And that has a very unique art style to it as well that I've always kind of loved. But it also has that similar. I'm going to go back to Tila again, where she has the separated,
yeah,
snake helmet from her armor. But it's got the He-Man that kind of has the longer hair, where it kind of looks a little bit more barbaric.
yeah.
That's a
Those
fun touch point as
those
well.
are interesting too because the you can kind of see there's a little. They've got some of it. They've got a little bit different source material because in some of them they've got a Prince Adam who looks like basically the early concept Prince Adam, where he's kind of got the blue vest and the sort of squares around the arms. There's one that it pulls a story directly from the 1982 Masters of the Universe Bible, which was kind of informed the filmation. They took some of it, they left some of it, but it's got this idea that, which shows up in the recent animation too, where you have the Council of Elders that they basically created Castle Grayskull from this other palace or castle. They to basically hide the power within the scary castle, and that shows up in one of those kid stuff books, and it shows up in kind of in MYP and in I think the Revelation as well. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's cool, and I like how it specifically explains it as, wanting to keep fortune seekers away from what's hidden by making the castle look scary and spooky.
Right.
Which, I don't know, that sounds like it would draw in more treasure hunters.
Right, yeah. Especially Skeletor.
Yeah.
It was made for me. Look at it.
Well, kind of before we wrap things up, I want to ask you, kind of a couple more questions. I know we talked about this the last time we spoke, but what are kind of your favorite, what are your favorite figure or figures from the toy lines? And so there's that question. Then what is your favorite toy line out of all the toy lines we've had over the years? And what is kind of your favorite, aside from, what we've been talking about today, what's kind of your favorite media for Masters of the Universe?
Oh man, these are tough questions. So I'm probably number one for me is always going to be vintage. But that's kind of like an obvious answer. Beyond that, for me, it's classics, my two classics. That's my aside from vintage, that's what I collect the most of. I have small collections of other things, like I've got Motu Origins, some of like the Lords of Power type, those early design type figures. I've got a few Mondos. Those are a little tougher to collect.
Yeah,
but those are really good. Like Merman is always, overall I'd say Merman's my favorite kind of character. I love the vintage version. I love the classics version. Origins, I really love the Lords of Power version. That one's one of my all-time favorites.
And did you get that initial 5-pack, the convention set?
Yeah,
that was such a cool set.
Yeah, when that was announced, I was like, okay, we gotta drop everything. I have to get this because I love those early Alcala, and Mark, slash Alcala was really drawing from Mark Taylor's concept designs. That's kind of where it comes from.
Yeah.
That look of the characters, I'm so drawn to, so I had to get it.
Yeah, I also really like that 2-pack that was also a convention exclusive of Prince Adam and He-Man, but it's the early blue vest Prince Adam, and it's got that part of the packaging is presented as in comic strip form, and it's got those classic designs. You've got Tila with the blonde hair that's down. It's not her updo and tiara like we normally see her. It's just such a cool presentation, and I keep hoping that Mattel is gonna do a standard release of that blue vested Prince Adam, but they haven't.
They should. Yeah, it's been enough time. They could do like a one that's like a plastic vest version. Since they did they keep the cloth one special, just do like a molded vest
for the collectors. Yeah. That's what it makes it that convention special. Change it up a little bit.
Yeah, when Origins first came out, I was so excited because everything. It looked like it was just going to be like the Origins, like the early concept stuff, which I was super excited for. But then it quickly became not that. But now I'm excited again because they're doing the sketchbook series. And I'm hoping that they'll do. Like I want to see the helmeted He-Man.
Yes.
I'd love to see like a blonde Tila.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, give us a Castle Grayskull in that style too.
Yeah, that's early.
That's really what
Skull Castle, like the 70s. That where it's like melting kind of.
Right. Right,
Such a cool
exactly.
design. I know
Yeah,
that was before Mo too, kind of, but it's that
yeah,
Mark Taylor artwork that we all love.
yeah.
Yeah. And then and so then I guess for the final question, as far as like media, what's kind of your favorite or favorites? I'll go easy on you. You
Um,
can have a couple answers here.
yeah. I mean, it's mostly vintage again, like Golden Books, mini comics. I do enjoy the full size DC comics. I've actually recently though I've started to read like the DC Comics series that started in like I think 2012. Basically that long run. I've started to read through those, and those are actually really good. It
They're a
took me
lot of
forever
fun.
to actually start to read those, which I mean it's kind of funny because I'm seeing like you go through them and you can see, oh, this is where they got that for Revolution,
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
drawing from these comic stories. They're not just pulling this out of their butt.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
something that was established.
Yeah.
But
That's
I'm
what
kind of
that's what I
yeah,
really
yeah.
liked about. Yeah, I'll let you finish, then I'll give my
Oh yeah,
follow-up thought.
it's just it's kind of funny that I haven't finished those yet. It's just because I spend so much time on my blog and researching all this vintage stuff. Sometimes it takes me forever to notice the new things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that was one thing. I was still a working newspaper reporter when those the 2012 comics started coming out, and so I was really excited. I actually had a subscription from DC Comics where they deliver them every new issue would show up on my doorstep, and I just kind of fell in love with it's another one of those moments where you fall in love with the brand all over again
Mhm.
for whatever reason, and it just felt so cool to have a modern He-Man story playing out in front of us. And then obviously, like you said, when Revelation came around, I was watching Revelation. I was like, oh, okay, I remember that from those comics. There's Skelegod. He was in those comics. There's Evelyn becoming the dark Horikoth sorceress, and Tila becoming her version of the sorceress, and it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. But
Yeah, yeah. I still haven't read the 2000X comics. I need to read those.
yeah,
I do like the Mike Young series
mhm.
cartoon. That might be my favorite of the cartoon series. Um, just in terms of story, I really like that.
It's really good. I love the cartoon. I have some of the comics, the trade paperbacks, which are fun. The only thing, I didn't really fall in love with the toys like I wanted to. They all kind of had that. I know a lot of people love the toys, so this is probably me being blasphemous about it, but they always kind of had that weird hunchback stature to them that kind of threw me
Right.
off. As much as I love the Four Horsemen designs, I never could quite get on board completely.
Yeah.
I still have them on my shelf. Not all of them, but I have
Right.
my favorites. But
I get that. And when I first started, like I had zero interest in 2000X. But it's grown on me over time. And what I figured out is what I actually like is the original Four Horsemen stuff. Like the actual figures were often very compromised by Mattel. Like they'd
yeah,
change the colors or they'd cheapen it in some way. But
yeah,
like the stactions, those are just amazing.
yes.
And
I
those were
have
just pure Four Horsemen.
I have a couple of those. I have the Battle Armor He-Man
Yeah,
selection,
yeah, it's
and then
beautiful.
I also have the classic colors He-Man, where he's got it's based on his original look, where he's got the classic power sword, not the 2000X
Yeah,
mechanical sword, and that probably two of my favorite pieces in my collection.
yeah,
My dog's
yeah.
barking
I've
at me.
got I've got Leech, which is my favorite from that series. I love Leech, but that's my favorite Leech is the Staction. And
Yeah,
then Stinkor is
oh,
also
he's
I
cool
love the
looking.
way what they did to Stinkor too. So
I also really love the Hordak in that line. He
yeah,
just looks so scary and menacing. I wish they would
yeah,
have done. I wish they could have done more of those. We never did get Tila. A She-Ra would have been cool, even though she wasn't technically in the show at all. But they did
yeah,
make they made an exclusive action figure of her though, at the 2000X styling of She-Ra, which was pretty cool. I think that was like a Toy Fair exclusive. I can't remember exactly, but still cool. Yeah, it's just so fun talking
yeah,
about it all.
yeah, Yeah, and they could have done like like a Spike or a Scareglow, like if they hadn't ended abruptly. Could have got a
Yeah.
lot of stuff there.
Yeah. I kind of hope at some point they kind of let NECA take another crack at it. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Well,
NECA does a lot of
there's
good stuff.
The Mondo 2000X
Yeah.
ones.
I have
Those are kind
those
of
are
in the
exciting.
style.
Yeah. Those are exciting. I keep telling my wife that I'm only going to get these specific Mondo figures, and I had the deluxe He-Man, the deluxe Skeletor, and the Tila that they did. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not buying any more. And then they announced the Goddess Tila figure, and I was like, well, I'm gonna get her.
Yeah.
But now I promise I'm done. But I'm probably not.
I pre-ordered her too. That's the first one that I actually pre-ordered from Mondo.
Awesome.
I could not resist. She was so cool.
Yeah, she's cool. When she went up for pre-order, Nate Barch messaged me and he's like, I got her. And he just had green hearts after his message. I was like, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, he loves the Goddess.
That's his favorite. So, well, yeah. Well, this has been a real treat. I always enjoy talking to you, and I talk a lot with you through messaging and in comments and stuff like that. But it's always fun chatting face to face about this stuff. So thank you for hanging out with me today.
Thanks for having me on. It's always fun.
Yeah. Before we leave, why don't you go ahead and tell people where they can find you, including Patreon information for your blog.
So basically, everything is you search just at Battle Ram blog. So the website is battleramblog.com. Patreon is just search for Battle Ram blog altogether. Facebook, same thing. Instagram, same thing. It's just all Battle Ram blog. That's anywhere that I'm at, which I think that's pretty much it. I think I'm on Threads too, but I don't really use it. So
yeah, I forget it. I forget about Threads and Blue Sky, and I was like, I should have posted that.
Yeah, right.
But it's always it's just one more social media site to keep track of.
Right. Yeah. It becomes too much to remember as well.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, good luck moving forward. I'm excited for what's to come. Like we talked the last time we spoke. We're still in that renaissance of Masters of the Universe stuff. Now we've got. I think the last time we talked, Revelation had dropped, but Revolution hadn't come out yet. So now we're past Revolution, and I guess the next thing is the movie. The live action movie is on the horizon, which I want to be excited for. I'm trying to be optimistic about it. I hear good things, and then there's stuff that I'm like, I don't know.
Right. The first time I got a little excited for it was just that I heard that the people who got a sneak peek, it sounds like the costumes are very toyetic. Like, I'm sure they look realistic, but it's they haven't like totally redesigned everything, which I'm excited about that.
And I'm sure if anything, I'm sure we'll get toys based on the movie and based on what we've heard about how the costumes look. I'm sure those toys will look really good too.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. So, well, anyway, I know it's probably getting a little bit late for you, so I don't want to keep you much longer. But again, thank you for what you do. You're a wonderful resource. I try to recommend you to as many people, especially there's a lot of new fans coming in because of the new movie, which I always kind of direct them to you to learn more about this world and these characters and stuff. So I really appreciate what you do, and I hope you hear that enough from other fans, because you're a treasure in this community. So thanks.
Thank you. That's very nice. And people do I get lots of people reaching out to me, and it's very kind. Which is I appreciate it. That keeps me going. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to you for saying that. It helps me to keep wanting to do it. So thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we can say goodbye for the evening, and we'll talk again soon. So we'll see everybody. Thank you.